Hello, everybody, and welcome to Death Chat. I'm your host, Julia Spittle, and today I'm here with Heather. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Beth.
Of course. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I am a psychic medium, specialize mostly with animals. I do animal communication as well as rainbow bridge readings. I'm also a Reiki practitioner specializing with animals, a canine and feline massage therapist, and a wildlife conservationist.
Wow, that's amazing. We really love animals. Got that. I also love animals. So I'm so glad that you're here with us. So many interesting, different things that you do. Let's start with how you got into this, or how did you really find your passion for, well, being a psychic and a medium, as well as for animals?
Well, with the animals, I've always loved animals. Ever since I was a little kid, I've always had a connection with them. With the psychic mediumship, that actually just really started probably back in 2018 is when I was really, I guess we'll call it broken open. So I grew up around death, like always. I grew up in a family of first responders. I come from a firefighting family. So death was something that wasn't hidden from me as a child. It was something that was openly discussed. And also I grew up in the parking lot of a funeral home.
In the parking lot?
Yes. So we weren't homeless. Let me preface by saying we weren't like intense in the parking lot, but there was an apartment complex in the parking lot of this funeral home. So we lived there, and the funeral directors were our landlords. And my mother had a phobia for dead bodies. So she would send me into the funeral parlor to pay the rent. And a lot of times the casket with the deceased was in there. So constantly exposed to dead bodies. And then there were funerals all the time because the parking lot of the funeral home was literally in our backyard. So constantly around death all the time. And I had a lot of imaginary friends as a child that now as an adult, I realized were not imaginary. And what is really crazy about that is my brother, who's 5 years younger than me, him and I had the same imaginary friends. So that doesn't happen. That does not happen. Like same name, they looked the same. Wow. Yes. So definitely not imaginary. So they were coming over from the funeral homes there. And then we moved a couple houses up to a house that had been in our family for couple generations. But before my family got it, it was actually the original site of the same funeral home at the turn of the century. So then I'm living in another home that was a funeral home. And wow, I would just have different experiences, different things would happen, like toys would turn on and off by themselves, or, you would hear things or see things out of the corner of your eye. But at some point I blocked that because then I didn't have those experiences anymore, which is normal. As we grow older, we're told, imaginary friends, don't use your imagination anymore. You kind of block that stuff out. And then in 2018, I had a tragedy happen with friends of mine. There was a murder-suicide that had happened. And these were people that I had known my whole life, people that I cared about. I was very close with the son of one of them. So the wife of the son came over to me for Reiki just to help, go through the stress. I mean, as you can only imagine, that's something traumatic to go through and horrific. Yes. And as I'm working on her, my friend's father, who was the perpetrator, who did the murder-suicide, came through. Like I saw him and I'm like, that's like super odd. That's never happened to me before. And I didn't think anything of it until the very next day. I was getting ready for work and I heard his voice in my head, which I know sounds absolutely insane, but it was his voice. And then I saw, like in my mind, I saw his face. And I was like, why am I thinking? I mean, I hated this man for what he did. Right. And I'm like, why am I thinking of him? Why am I hearing him? And then, of course, I'm like, I have completely lost my mind and I am going crazy. Like, this is it. This is the moment. And he, starts, crying and asking me to help his son. And he realized what he did was wrong. And he's sorry for everything he did. And I was like, this is freaking nuts. But then I heard the voice of his wife that he killed. And it was her. Like, I know that woman's voice. I knew it was her. And this is where I tear up because she actually told me, it's okay, honey. You can forgive him. It's fine. I'm fine. You know, and I remember thinking, I was like, how can you, he took your life. How can you be fine with this? Like, you have a grandbaby on the way that you're never going to meet. How can you be okay with this? And she told me that it was okay, that she was still able to be with her grandchild. Just, she said, even more so now, like in a different way. And they were both just telling me to basically help the son, you know, just please help the son. He was, you know, not dealing with this well. And in that moment, I felt like my whole body like hurt. Like I felt all these weird pains in my body that I'd never experienced, and like anxiety through the roof. My heart was racing, and like I wanted to kill myself. And like I remember falling to my knees, and I'm like, what is this? This is not, whatever I'm feeling, this is not me. This is not coming from me. And that's when I realized I was feeling what he felt in his final moments.
No way.
And they did validate, the son and the wife did validate, like certain pains I was having in my body were, the guy had like some back issues. So like I was feeling everything that he was feeling. And then it just stopped. And I remember sitting in my room thinking, the hell just happened? This is crazy. But like a switch flipped. And instead of hating this person, I felt empathy towards him. Not that I condoned what he did, but I felt so much pain and stuff, not even just from that moment, but stuff that had happened to him in his life. Like I was experiencing what he'd experienced. And it completely changed everything for me. And luckily, you know, I was able to talk to the son, and God love him, he believed me, because you never know how people are going to take this information. And, you know, his wife believed me. My husband was very supportive, and I was able to get some messages through to them. I was able to help them. But that singular moment broke open my mediumship abilities, because after that, it stopped. And it was very overwhelming in the beginning, but now I have a better handle on it. But that's kind of a long story, but that's where it kind of all led up to where I am now.
That was about 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's fascinating. I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. And I can't even imagine. I listen to true crime, and you always think like, what motivated the killer to do this, or to do the crime that we feel is so heinous, but we're not sure how to identify it. And you literally identified with it.
I did. And it wasn't, and it made me realize like things aren't always black and white. There's a lot of
almost never
gray area in between.
right?
There's a lot of factors that play into certain things. Again, not condoning what happens, because what happened should have never happened. And it was horrible. But now experiencing what I experienced, it gives me a different perspective.
Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm interested in continuing to hear about your path since that time. So then what happened after you went through this, and you said like the beginning stages were a little hard. And then like, can you tell us what it was like then and how it is now?
Yeah. So in the beginning, it was overwhelming. Like I literally thought I had to be committed.
Yeah.
I just felt like this is insane. I will say I have the best husband in the world. I could not have gone through this had he not been as, like, he believed me from the get-go. Not
So
everybody would do that. They'd
Right.
be like, you're crazy. You're making this up. Like he was so supportive and believed me from the get-go. And I have such a supportive group of people around me that none of them didn't believe me. They all believed me.
Yeah.
And that helped. But I was just constantly getting bombarded with emotions that weren't mine and thoughts that weren't mine. And I couldn't go into like large crowds of people without just being completely drained. Like I was so tired. Like my energy was constantly being drained, and just, I would get migraines all the time. It was too much. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, is this how the rest of my life's going to be? Is this the start of mental illness? Like, is there something wrong with me? And I remember like going to my doctor, I'm fine. I'm sane. I mean, some would probably argue that, but according to my doctor, I am. So luckily, I had already been a part of like a spiritual community and a spiritual that there were people that were mediums, that had been mediums for many years. And they took me under their wings and really helped teach me how to control this gift and realize that it is a gift. It's not a curse. And realize that you can shut it down and you can put barriers up to protect yourself. Because when I was broken open, basically, you're almost like a lighthouse in the dark to these spirits. And they will seek you out. They will find you because there's finally somebody there that can hear them and see them and get their messages across that they want to get across. And you have no boundaries. I mean, they'll find you anywhere. They'll find you at all hours of the night. So it's really learning to control your gift and I'm now able to turn it off and on when I need. But after,
congratulations.
Thank you. It took a while to get there. But after seeing how this experience that I went through helped my friend and his family process the traumatic events that they went through, it kind of clicked with me like, well, maybe this is something that I'm supposed to use to help people. You know, let's kind of turn this into a positive thing and try to help people. And that led me to open my business, Fairhaven Healing, in 2020. Again, more focused on Reiki, but I noticed the more Reiki I did on people, the more I opened up and the more information started to come through where the readings just started to flow. And then, again, I'd always loved animals. And next thing I know, I'm talking animals. I'm like Dr. Doolittle.
No way.
Yes, it's a thing. So I actually didn't know about it until this wonderful woman, and I'm going to shout her out because I love her dearly, Dawn Toole. She's incredible. She did an animal communication class, and I was like, animal communication, like, count me in. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I went, and it just clicked instantly. And I'm like, you can actually communicate with animals. Who freaking knew? And so I started taking courses with her. And again, now in addition to picking things up from people, there's a cat in the corner that's like spilling the tea, you know, like appearing stuff from
dead animals or
both.
live?
Dead and live.
Wow.
Both.
Can you see the dead ones or do you just hear them?
Sometimes.
Like, I don't know if it's a cat or a person.
It's weird, but I just know.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now, sometimes I will see them. Like when I'm doing Reiki on someone or on an animal, I'm able to see the people or the animal spirits in my mind. Generally, though, it's usually I'll just sense them. I'll hear them. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want to see them all the time.
Yeah.
Like it's like sixth sense stuff. I don't want to be that kid that's like, I see dead people.
Yeah.
I don't want
Not
that.
ideal.
Not ideal. Don't want that. But I'll just like sense them. Sometimes they'll come through in dreams, or when I'm meditating, they'll come through. And sometimes when I'm doing animal communication with an animal that's living, like in my mind, I'll see like another animal. And I go, what's this other animal? And then the owner will validate, oh, well, this was my cat that passed away, you know, so many years ago, or something like that. Like that's actually happened several times.
So you not only are communicating with the animal, but you're also able to see the animal's connections to spirits, animals. Whoa. That is amazing. So why would somebody want you to talk to their animal? Like, do they bring them to you?
So sometimes I'll come to them. So animals are more comfortable in their own environment. So I want the animal to be as comfortable as possible. So I'll do house calls. But a lot of the animal communication, if it's just an animal communication session and not Reiki, we'll do it via Zoom. Do it over the phone.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's something that's developed because before I'm like, it has to be in person.
Right.
I can even do it through a photograph. Like if somebody just gives me a photograph of their animal, as long as I can connect with the eyes of that animal, I'm able to form a telepathic connection with that animal and gain insight from them. Or if they have an object, if the animal is deceased and they have like something that belonged to the animal, like their favorite toy or a collar or something, I can kind of use that as a conduit to really attach to that energy and that soul and to be able to connect with that animal. But people want me to communicate with their animals for multitudes of reasons. A lot of it is behavioral. The animals, you know, exhibiting some type of unfavorable behavior, and they want to find out why, because clearly they can't just sit there and tell us, you know, my tummy hurts or this is going on or I'm mad about this. So they want to know that. Some people, it's an animal, a brand new animal that they just adopted or that they just brought in, and they want to find out what that animal's backstory is. You know, are they comfortable here? Sometimes it's animals that are getting ready to cross over and they want to find out, like, what can we do? Are they ready to go? What can we do to make the end of their time more comfortable? And I work with a lot of rescues as well. I partner with a bunch of different animal rescues, and they'll have me come in and work with their cats or dogs or horses that are, you know, have been abused, you know, to help them gain trust with people, but also to share their story and find out what happened to them, which helps the fosters and the rescues then see what they can do to help this animal. Is this animal adoptable? And also, what is the ideal home for this animal?
That's incredible.
So we're able to help get these animals into the homes that they want. And sometimes I've talked to rescue animals that I'm like, I don't want to go anywhere. I'm fine here. And I have to let the fosters know this cat ain't going anywhere. They're staying here. So I will tell you that whole thing where like dogs have humans and cats have servants is really true.
Oh, yes.
Cats think I love cats. I have 2 cats of my own. They think very highly of themselves. And like they're up here and the rest of us are like way down.
Yes.
Oh yeah. They still have that God complex from when they were worshipped in ancient Egypt. I don't think that's ever gone away.
Seriously, what I always have concluded. One thing I'm interested in your perspective of is what happens to us after we die.
So that's a very interesting question, and I get asked that a lot. I will preface this by saying this is just my opinion. This is what I always tell people, I'm not going to know for certain until I make that journey. So this is based on what I've gotten from spirits that I've connected with, but also in talking to other mediums. So, and I'll do it in 2 parts. I'll do it with humans and animals. The first thing with animals, and I think this is really important for people to know, is unlike us, they don't fear death. They know what death is. They know that it's inevitable. They don't fear it like humans do. And they also don't hold on to baggage like we do. They never have unfinished business. They never, you know, want to be earthbound. You know, they know what's happening. And the moment that heart stops, their soul just goes. It goes. And it's beautiful and it's peaceful and it's like pure love and pure light, and they go.
Rainbow.
It is. It literally, the Rainbow Bridge is a legit place. That is a real thing. And that is actually what it kind of looks like when I see the spirit leave the body of an animal. There's like a rainbow hue to it. And when I've connected with them on the other side, a lot of times where they're at will look like a kaleidoscope. Like it's very, very colorful and very, very bright. And they have no ill will towards people. They do cross over. They do go to the Rainbow Bridge. And when they're over there, they're just like little bright balls of light. There's no pain. There's no sadness. There's no, you know, they're not harboring any ill will. Because I know I get a lot of questions from people about, well, I had to put them down. Did I make the right decision? Does my animal now hate me because I murdered it? But first of all, I do not consider euthanasia murder. I call it the ultimate kindness. And the animals understand that. I've never connected with an animal on the other side that has hated their humans or thought that their human, you know, did them wrong by putting them down. Like it's always all about love. It's always all about love. But I will say, please be with your animal at the end. Please be with them. It is, even though they know death's coming, the process of euthanasia scares them because they don't know what's going on. And when you're doing it in a veterinary clinic, the smells and all that stuff, it's very overwhelming and they are scared. And the first thing they're going to do is look for their human. And it's going to just cause the process to not go as well. So as hard as it is, and trust me, I've been there. I know how hard it is to be there at the end. Please do that for your animals. But that's what happens with animals. It's just quick, easy. They move on. They can still come visit us whenever we want. Like I say, the Rainbow Bridge does have visiting hours. You just have to ask for your animal and they'll come visit you at any moment. With humans, it's a little more complicated because we're a little more complicated. Yeah, we carry so much baggage. It's ridiculous. And we have, at least in our society, in Western society, we have such a fear of death that other cultures don't have. Yeah. And so when we are getting ready to pass, as the body is starting to shut down, you will start to see those people or animals that you knew coming through to escort you to the other side. It's always the animals first, which is very interesting to know. It's always, and it's not just one, like it will be as many animals as you've had a connection with in your lifetime, or it might just be one. Like, I don't know how they determine who it is, but sometimes it's multiple, and they will be the first thing because they know that they'll give you the most comfort. So they show up first. And basically what they do is then they'll escort your soul to the humans that are going to help escort you further on. But the other thing that happens is you go through what's called a past life review. And what that is you're reliving your entire lifetime. So when people say, like, when they have a near-death experience and they say their life flashed before their eyes, there is validation to that. Because you do literally live from the moment you took your first breath to the moment you took your last. You are reliving all the good and the bad and the ugly moments in between. But the catch with that is you also feel the emotions that you caused other people to feel times 100. So if you are someone that has intentionally hurt people over the years, and I say intentional because there's a lot of gray area in here, if you accidentally cause the end of someone's life, like an accident or something like that, there's some gray area there. This is pure intention. Like you lived your life purposely harming people or hurting people. You're just like a mean person. You're going to feel that times 100. That's your karma. You have to feel that pain that you caused times 100. But on the flip side, if you're someone who lived your life making people happy and lifting people up, you feel that times 100. So that's kind of where karma comes into play. You're going to reap what you sow and feel what you went through. So then after you do your past life review, that's kind of the point where you kind of decide where you go. And I should say before that, and this is an interesting fact, everybody attends their own funeral. So when we started this podcast, I told you, because we are in a funeral home, that there are a lot of spirits around here. So we all attend our own. So there is actually a 10-day period from the time you die to the time where you kind of make a decision as to where you're going or if you're staying there and everything. You're earthbound for 10 days. So during that 10-day time period, you're able to visit your loved ones. You're able to do your unfinished business. So that's why a lot of people, after a loved one has passed, they'll be like, I saw them in my dreams, or I sensed them in my room. That's valid. That you did see them in your dreams. They actually were there. They were there in your room because they're saying their goodbyes. They're doing their business. And then they do attend their own funerals. And after that 10 days, then you kind of go where you're supposed to go.
The gray lands. I like that terminology too, because that's always something that you hear about, like purgatory. But it does have that religious feel.
It does. And purgatory to me, like, it just sounds really scary.
Yeah. It does.
Like the gray lands, does that down, just right. And it really isn't as scary as like
yeah.
Again, just my opinion, just my experience.
Yeah. Well, you are someone who would know. You've seen it
in a way.
Interesting. Another aspect that I'm curious about is that one of my aspirations for Death Chat is to have more of an awareness conversation about death and dying. And one thing that I see as a prearrangement advisor here is that there is becoming a lack of having a funeral. Some families are like, I just want to be cremated. I don't want anything to be done. You said everybody attends their funeral. What if they have a memorial service 3 months later?
They can still come.
Yeah. They come back.
So death isn't final. Like that door isn't closed where they're stuck over. That the one thing that I have learned is it's like a revolving door. They can come over, they can go wherever they want. They're not stuck to just one place. Like, for example, I come from a firefighting family. I do have several family members, that were firefighters that have passed away. And we have our old firehouse that everyone always said was haunted. I mean, all kinds of weird things would happen. I mean, definitely. And now I know it is definitely haunted. But what's really funny is my great grandfather, my great uncle, my grandfather, as well as some other people that I know actually they'll go hang out at the old firehouse and play cards. I kid you not. Like in the spirit world, they go over there and play cards. But then they're also able to go visit like family members. So like my great uncle, his daughter doesn't live far from the firehouse. So he can also go over there and he hangs out in her childhood bedroom. So they are able to travel to different places and they're able to come and go as they please. So in that instance where, the memorial service isn't until like several months or a year later or whatever it may be, they can still come back. It's just the only difference there is they're not completely earth. So in that 10 days from the day of death, that is like earthbound. Like they can't actually cross over yet. They're not ready to do that. It's not their time. They have that 10-day grace period basically to settle their business and say their goodbyes and do all of that. Once they cross over, they're able to kind of come and go willingly. So they're not stuck here. That's really the only difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know for certain, but they may have an option after they cross over. They don't want to attend. Right. But when you're earthbound, you're attending. You are there.
Interesting. So do you think I would feel like I would want it to be in the first 10 days so that I have something to do? When you're planning a funeral, first 10 days, at least something where everybody's together. And that's, now this perspective is also just accentuates that even more, that's fascinating. And, you mentioned like one of your first experiences when you were younger, imaginary friends, like the people or spirits rather that you do see, do you still see them?
Not as much.
Like, do you think that they just come back and then you're the lighthouse? So they, like I guess I'm confused on the ones that are here.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they here? I mean, you said that it might be visiting, but why do they come to you?
So they don't always come to me. Sometimes I'll just walk in a room and they'll be there and I'm just like, oh, they're there. And then what happens then is they're like, I don't know if you ever saw the ghost whisper, but it's kind of like that. They're like, you can see me. You can see me. Okay. And then they'll come over. So it's not that they're actively like seeking me out. Now, sometimes that does happen. If when I was doing Reiki on people, sometimes they might have a spirit that like has a message for them. So they might like find me and seek me out to do that message. Like my first experience with my friend's dad, like sometimes that'll happen or depending on where I'm at, like, funeral homes or hospitals, cemeteries, nursing homes are really bad, really bad. I would go visit my grandmother when she was in a nursing home and just the amount of spirits that were there was ridiculous. And they would then seek, it's like as soon as I pulled into the park, like I had to close myself down because it's like they could see that light. They could sense me so there are some spirits that can, but it's not like spirits from afar are like coming and seeking me out. Like there's usually a reason. Or I'm in the vicinity of where they are, or I'm talking to their loved one, like that's when they seek me out.
Have you or can you talk to wild animals?
I can. Yes. And actually, I'm a wildlife conservationist and I do wildlife rescue. So I'm out in the field all the time, rescuing injured and orphaned wildlife and participating in many different wildlife conservation initiatives. So I'm always working with wild animals and they do talk. For the most part, though, they don't have as much to say. Like our domesticated animals will spill the tea because they're with us all the time. They're more acclimated to humans. Wild animals really don't want anything to do. They really just want to be left alone for the most part. The first thing they always ask me, though, is, are you going to eat me? And can I eat you? Like those are always the first two things, which makes sense. They're in the wild, predator and prey. Are you friend or foe? So that's usually the first thing that they want to know. Sometimes, depending on the animal and depending on the situation, they may share some insight into what's going on in the world and, what we're doing to the planet. I mean, I will say the animals aren't very happy with what we're doing to the natural world. They see the destruction that we've caused. They see what we're doing. And the one thing that usually comes across is they want us to know that, hey, this isn't just your home. Like, we live here too, and you guys are horrible neighbors. You need to do something about this. Like, fix this before it's too late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sad.
It's very sad. But the one thing that I've learned from them is a lot of times all we have to do to let nature heal herself is to take a step. We just need to stop doing what we're doing and just take a step back. Mother Nature knows what to do. She knows how to fix herself. These animals know what to do. It's us. When you put humans into the equation is where everything just gets off kilter and so we just need to step. We saw that at COVID during the lockdown.
Yes.
Nature bounced back because she finally got to be able to catch her breath and got a break. That's what needs to happen. We just need to step back.
We have to have like all electricity lights off one day a year.
Same.
One day. One Sunday.
Same. Yep.
Maybe Easter Sunday. Just put everything off.
Yes. Seriously. Just one day.
Right.
Yeah. That's all we need.
Yeah.
That's all we need. She just needs a little bit of a breather.
A little bit of love.
Yeah. She doesn't get that.
Right. What about zoos?
So it depends on the zoo. There are good zoos and there are not so good zoos. Now, I will say with most zoos, the animals that are in the zoos were born and raised in captivity. So they don't know any different and they're usually okay with it. They have adjusted to life with humans. They get fed, they get water, they get enrichment. They're fine. There are some, though, that don't do as in captivity. Just like there are certain species of animals that just can't survive in captivity. Usually it's due to stress. A lot of times if I go to a zoo and I'll see an animal pacing back and forth, that's a sign of anxiety in the animal. And I'll connect with them and send them Reiki. And usually a lot of it is because they have no place to hide. They're on display. So there's constantly people peeking at them and kids banging on the glass. They have no place to hide. And animals' senses are extremely heightened. They're 100 times better than ours. So I know how I would get annoyed if people were banging on the glass and staring at me. So now imagine you're an animal with these heightened senses. It's 100 times worse. And it can just be really overwhelming for them. So I am an advocate for zoos depending on the zoo and what they do. Because there are some zoos too that do like rehabilitation. Like they'll take a wild animal in, rehabilitate them, and then release them back out to the wild. Or they'll take in a wild animal that just can't survive in the wild. But I don't condone taking wild animals and putting them in captivity for just because that, which luckily does not happen nearly as much as it used to, like in the day. Like I said, most of these animals are born and raised in captivity. They don't know any. And again, just like people, every animal has a different personality. So there might be an animal that's fine being in captivity. And then there's another one that's like, I want to be free. I hate this. So it just varies on the animal.
Interesting. Yeah, that was one of the biggest points that you said about rescue, the dog and cat rescues. Like, if the dog is okay with being there, then let them know. Okay. And so one of my curiosities are like snakes. Like, can you talk to snakes?
I can.
Can you talk to like lizards?
So any animal can talk.
Everything that has a beat.
Anything that has a heartbeat can talk. And what's
Ants?
Yes, everything. And what's really interesting is they all talk among themselves. So we call it interspecies communication, but we also call it like the collective, like the great collective, because they all communicate with each other. The only species that is left out of that conversation is us. And that's our own doing. Our ancestors knew how to communicate with each other, how to communicate with the animals. We've just forgotten. And so there's conversations going on behind the scenes. They're all talking among each other. They can all communicate with each other. And I tell people, when people don't believe me, I said, think of the pets in your house. Let's say you have a multi-species household. You have dogs and cats. You'll notice, like, they'll look at each other and they'll just know, like, they're in sync. They know what the one's going to do before the other one does, but you don't see them verbalizing with each other. But they are communicating. They communicate telepathically with each other. And that's how I'm able to communicate. It's all telepathic. But yeah, they're always having a conversation. The insect world, the reptile world, the mammals, the birds, anything. Even the trees. Now that I have not delved into nearly as much, but trees and plants also have a mind. They also communicate, especially trees. They communicate through their root stones.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for Heather. And we will include her contact information, her business, her website, and her email if you have any questions or follow-ups, because it sounds like this. How old are you, if you mind me asking?
I'm 30.
39. You are young and you've been mastering this for like the last 7 years, and it's just going to go up from here. And I'm glad that you're young enough that you have at least like 25 more years of work to do here. We're going to get to Africa. All right. Goodbye.